Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to July. I'm not sure when you're watching this, but it is very July here. I'm excited because I'm going to play with PixiJS this week, which is an HTML5, specifically a 2D canvas renderer, but that's accelerated by WebGL. So what does that mean? As opposed to using the normal canvas APIs of, draw image and circle and line and stuff, it's using WebGL to render that content, which means you can do all kinds of neat stuff in high performance ways. You can see this really cool animation in the background here where it's like blending between two different textures in real time. Like I said, the frame rate's a little chunky with OBS running, but I can assure you that this is buttery smooth when the screen's not being captured. So I'm gonna jump out of this extremely intense animation and go over to examples, because I think that this week it would be sick to try to build a little basic game. PixiJS is really good at moving sprites around and laying them out and doing those things really quick, which I think makes it perfect for making games. And I know there are a bunch of games that are built on top of it. So we are definitely going to experiment with using PixiJS to build a basic game. I don't know if they have any basic games in their examples, but that is ultimately our plan. So I think we should start off by making a project. It's project making time. I don't need a server today. I think this is all going to be client side. I'm going to remix hello web page on glitch, and we're going to get marked geese. More impressively, we're getting marked geese 1, which means there was already a marked geese in the world. That's okay. We'll stick with this project name. So I'm going to update the stream message, show you what project I'm working on, and drop this in chat. As always, if you'd like to follow along, you can click the link in chat and you can actually load up the glitch editor and click around and see what I'm doing live and explore the files and just play along. If you see any bugs, let me know. Always appreciate people calling out typos and bugs and stuff like that. Makes the coding go faster. So, like I said, this is going to be a PixiJS example. I want to build a basic game. So let's describe our purpose here, just so when I go find this later, I know what it is. Game demoing PixiJS. Cool. And let's bring PixiJS into the project. So let's look around these docs. Let's see what they recommend for how best to install things. They have new examples on GitHub. Okay. Maybe I need the getting started guide, because I think what I want is how to use this. Get started with the API. I want resources, get started. There we go. View docs. And close that because that giant animation does slow my computer down. So, okay. What to use PixiJS for and when to use it. It is fast, lightweight 2D library that works across all devices. And it allows Render to enjoy the power of hardware acceleration without knowing WebGL. Sounds good to me, because I don't really know WebGL that well, though I've played with it a little bit in the past. Let's find how best they just say to install this into their product. npm install, cool, if we were doing it that way. I think I'm just going to use cdnjs because we're doing a front-end only project. So let's go back to our project here, and we'll go to our index.html file, and above our script, we'll drop in PixiJS. Also, I'm going to pop the example open, the live example open in the side here, just so we can see it. Okay, so we've got PixiJS on our page. Nothing is happening, which makes sense. Looks like they've got some cool demos that show. I see maybe this might actually be a basic game here. Ooh, this is like a game. Maybe we don't want that yet. I just want like the simplest get started tutorial in the world here. Basic usage. Fantastic. And looks like they have a thing called bunny, which is some sort of basic image. Maybe we'll go find the bunny somewhere. We don't need to build because we don't need the docs. So let's just see what happens if I just drop this code into my script. We're gonna cargo cult for a second just to see what's going on. We're just gonna copy paste and hope everything goes as expected. It is yelling at me because it thinks Pixie is not in the page. That's just the built-in linter not knowing that we put that tag in. So we can say, and then we will be in good shape because then we will have, there we go. So you can see it's obviously creating a thing. I'm going to make the application a little smaller than looks like maybe there's a default size based on the size of this window. Maybe we can figure out how best to make that smaller. Pixie.application. I'm going to guess that in here, width and height. Great, and they default to 800 by 600. So I should be able to say width, let's say, let's go real tiny, just so I can do it side by side. We can always bump it up later. Cool, okay, nice and small, fits in our sidebar. Okay, this application is looking real fine. I'm gonna open up the JavaScript console and point my JavaScript console at my running frame over here. Which is just a thing, lets me say I'm only interested in JS errors that are coming from the live view. I don't want all of this stuff. If you're using Firefox, by the way, you can click this little frame set icon and pick which of your frames you care about, and it will focus only on those, which is pretty nice. It means there'll be less noise from the glitch editor. Okay, we can also now, I refreshed everything. Do we have any? Doesn't look like it's making any network requests, which is interesting. It is logging that PixiJS is present. I was hoping that this bunny would fail to load because I don't have a file called bunny.js. So I was hoping we would see that request go out and fail. Maybe it just means that this loader is just never finishing as opposed to erroring. Let's take a look and take at the loader, because I'm curious what the loader is, where it says app.loader. So it's something that is attached to the application object, which I'm looking at. Loader, pixie.loader. I wonder if we can get like on error. Sure, cool, there we go. That's exactly what I was looking for, is we can watch for errors. I think that'll be very valuable. So so it's gonna be app.loader.onError. And we can add an event handler here. I'm not sure what it logs, so we're just gonna say console.error arg. So just collect everything and log it if it fails. Oop, and I'm missing one spread operator there. Cool, and now we can see that in fact there is an error loading things, and we can see what it is. Failed to load the element using image, which makes sense. There's no bunny. It's pointing to an icon, a thing that does not exist. So obviously we'll need to get ourselves something to replace it in the short term. And okay, so it's an error and it tells me all kinds of stuff. I just want that error text. I don't need everything right now. I think that would be valuable. Okay, cool. So now we're getting told if there are loading errors. Perfect. Holy cow, they need to the console. Monica.dev. Yeah, it's really, really slick. And I think that's a thing that's doable in most modern dev tools, is you can target your dev tools at one specific place. I find it tremendously useful. Okay, so we've got some basic error stuff here, error handling, which is good, just so we know when things aren't working that they're not working. I feel like that's always important. So we can now, I think we need to replace this bunny.png, because obviously we don't have a bunny. What could I use? Let me just grab my icon, if I can find what. Somewhere there should just be my version of my giraffe, my avatar. We're just going to use my giraffe avatar just because I know about it. Okay, we can either put that in our assets folder. I'm going to open up the console. So I'm going to open up our logs for this project and then hit console. And that's going to give me the logs. And I'm just going to quick wget this from a URL because I know where it is. Great. And then refresh. So now we have giraffe400.png, and I can say giraffe400.png, and hopefully it pulls in a giraffe. It does. This image apparently has a white background and is not transparent. Okay, but we do have an avatar. I wouldn't say that's the best thing in the world, given that it's huge, but it works, and it seems to be. Each frame, they want to spin the bunny around a bit. So I'm curious about things like frames and things like that. You can tell that this image is much bigger than they're expecting. But it looks like the loader is the basic way that we pull assets in to use them. What I want to do is actually pull in like a tile set for a game and use a tile set to make like a little game that we can run around and play in. Obviously, I don't want to use a giant giraffe to do that. I want to pull in tiles and lay them out on the screen. So obviously, we're going to need to do a little bit more learning right now. By the way, spoiler, these are the tiles. I found them. It's a free tile set that this person, Rotting Pixels, makes and distributes for free on itch.io. I think it's super cool. I love the look. I think it's a really neat look. It's my kind of 16-bit aesthetic. So when it comes time to pull these in, this is what we're going to use. Just spoilers. What I want to do, however, is figure out how to do some sprite drawing. Because we are able to pull in an image and draw with it. But how do we actually draw from sprites? We have this idea of Sprite Sheets. So you can see utility class for maintaining reference to a collection of textures on a single sprite sheet. We can pass its JSON data file. Oh, I have a JSON data file. But maybe we can define it. It says source-based texture object, image data, this file name to consider. I wonder what these sprite sheets are. I don't like the sprite sheet format. I don't want to do a ton of like rabbit holing here, but I want to take a minute to learn about these sprite sheets because I think it's going to be really useful. Because basic trimming, cropping, but yeah, it seems to be this common sprite sheet format that lots of things use. I've seen it go by before. And it seems to be based on a JSON file. So I'd love to look at what one of these JSON files look like. Because unlike the default ones where it seems like every image is a different file, I want to take one big texture and chop it into pieces. Maybe what I'm looking for is already in here. Tiling sprite, that could be it. Let's take a look at that. Let's also make sure we have the docs for Sprite open, because I feel like that is going to be pretty important. A tiling sprites are a fast way of rendering a tiling image. Okay, so it's the opposite. It takes one image and tiles it lots of times, as opposed to lots of images and repeats the same image as opposed to from a sheet. That's okay. Let's see sheet.textures. Sprite object is the base for all textured objects that are rendered to screen. Okay, I think it might be time to do a search. This looks like what I want down here. I don't know if you can see this, but there's this idea of being able to pull in individual tiles. So what I need to do is create textures for all of my individual tiles in my tile sheet, which, let's see, I actually have the tile sheet sitting around here somewhere. Let me pull that in also. Okay, it's going to go to my assets directory. That's fine. So we'll use the asset for the tiles. They're 16 by 16 pixels. Okay, that's good to know. And let's try pulling those in. So right now, it's going to pull in this big old thing. All right, so now we've got my entire tile sheet spinning. In Phaser, it's called a tile map. I remember them from Paperback Walnut. I remember that from when I was doing the Phaser stream. It looks like this doesn't, strictly speaking, have a concept of those, but it seems like maybe they're pretty easy to do, which is fine by me if I just need to do. What it looks like is I can load one big texture and then chop it using rectangles into all of the individual textures, which, you know what? If that's what I have to do, that's what I've got to do. I'm going to pull the actual image open here too, just to see how big it is. It is the tile set, which I think is actually pretty cute. It's 112 by 176 pixels. So if it's 112, I'm going to divide that by 16. So it's 7 tiles wide. Okay. And it's 7. Okay. So it's 7 16 pixel tiles wide. And what have we got here? 176. So I'm just lazy. So I'm just going to do the math in my head. 7 by 11. Cool. When there's a couple blanks and things like that, but that's okay. So I want to take this and ingest it and turn it into a bunch of different map tiles. Right now, because I think I'm going to code my map numerically, what I'm going to do, so now we've got this resources.bunny.texture. I'm actually going to call this tile set. And based on this one random internet response that talks about this one random internet response that looks like it shows how to take a texture and subdivide it into textures. We're just going to go with that. We know that our tile set is 7 wide and 11 tall. So we're going to say for let I equals 0, I less than 7 times 11. I plus plus. And we're going to say let tiles, or tile textures, let's say. Let's make it a good variable. Because we know that it's 7 wide and 11 tall, we're going to iterate. We're going to say let x equals I mod 7. So that's going to get reset every row. And then we're going to say let y equals I divided by 7. Because every time we reach 7, we want to go to the next row. And we're going to do math.floor. Cool. So now we're going to have tile textures loaded for each of the things. I'm just going to copy paste this piece of code in and format it a little bit. It's called resources.tileset. I don't think we have to. Looks like they're doing an older way of doing that. Looks like they're used with the named lookup, but I'm going to do this. Resources.tiletech.texture, and then we know that our tile size is, let me define that. Const tile size equals 16. And then I can say x times, oops, got a little select happy there. X times tile size, y times tile size, and then just tile size twice because we know our tiles are square. And that which will take the existing tile sheet and hopefully slice it up into 16 individual tiles, which is precisely what I want. Texture, it's going to say tile textures I. Guess I could say push either way. But now we've actually chopped this up into little pieces, which means if I, as opposed to, so I can take this line and just shift it on down. Because let's assume we've sliced up nicely. We could now, as opposed to saying dot texture, I should be able to say tile textures, and let's just pick 0 to start, even though 0 is not really a standalone texture, just to see if this works. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but now we have a spinning single tile of ground, which means we are in good shape, because that's this first tile right here, which means we can go through and find a blank. So our first blank is, 6 plus 7 is 13, so 12. We could also find maybe a coin, which is going to be 5 and 7. I don't know. I'm just scrolling around to see, mentally trying to figure out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's do this crate right here. 8. So it's 8 times 7 is what tile that is, because 8 times 7 is 56. Okay, so I have the flask. Get ye flask. So maybe I'm off. I'm still off. Man, I am, 56. Okay, minus 1, 55. I don't know. We can now cycle through these and you can see all the different textures, which is really what's important to me. I do wish these things were bigger. I wonder if I can set a scaling factor and below everything, make everything bigger. That'd be really cool. I like the pixelated look anyway. So let's figure out in the application settings whether I can set a default like scale. And if not, we'll figure out how to do scaling at the drawing time. I could just lie and say resolution is 0.5. I wonder if I don't think that's how you're supposed to do it, but let's try it. Yeah, that's not really what we're going for. Anyway, I'll sort that out. It's probably actually just in maybe the renderer. There's this idea of a renderer. Okay, so let's take a look at the sprite. I'm going to guess the other option is that the sprites themselves get scaled. So there is a scale, looks like. Scale, yep. Assignment by value. So I should be able to say scale equals 2. Bunny.scale equals 2. I know it's not a bunny. I know it's like a random other tile. But interestingly, that did not seem to work. Let's take a look at what bunny.scale is. It's an object. Oh yeah, that is not what I want. That's not what I'm looking for at all. Assignment by value since Pixie v4. Okay, What does that mean? I have no idea what that means. It does have a setter, which is cool. Let's pick something preposterous. Oh, okay, so it's an X and Y scaling. That's why. Cool. All good, because I want to draw more than one of these, funnily enough. So we've got the ability to draw a basic sprite. I suppose that's a good thing. Let's figure out how we can do like an entire wall of them. Or do I just have to position them around? Because that doesn't make sense, right? I want to be able to draw a big like tile map, right? I have a map. I want to make it out of things. Let's look for PixiJS draw game map. I'm not above searching draw game map. Okay, PixiJS says they have examples for this. I don't know that that's true, but let's take a look. Okay, I'm willing to take their word at value that all of these things are actually going to be, everything is a sprite. That seems not what I would have done, but let's try it out. They also have the idea of textured mesh. Ooh, that's not what I want, though that's super cool. Okay. They're saying, let's make a bunch of sprites. And I'm saying, fine by me. So I'm going to make a quick world map. Let map equals, and we're going to say, map is going to be an object, because we want to represent our world. Our world's going to be real basic right now. We're going to say width equals, let's say, for the now, I'm going to try 4. It's going to be really tiny to start. Very small world. Then tiles. Let's do the height of 4 also. Tiles, and we're going to do just because I don't know what my tiles are all right now, we're going to do 0, 0, 0, 0. And just see what this looks like to start. And do 4 of these. And then let's see, world map. Let's call this background. Background. And let's see, can we create a group of sprites? Like, can we take a bunch of sprites and put them all within a subgroup that I can move them all around at the same time? Because I'd really love to do that. I'm probably doing this all wrong, but I'm having a nice time. Container. What's a container? Container is a collection of display items. Okay, so here it is. It wasn't called a group. It was called a display. It was called a container. Cool. Okay, so the container is the base class of all display objects that act as a container for other objects like sprites. We're going to make a background map, which is going to be new pixie.container. Pixie.container is not a constructor. It's a capital C container. Cool. And we can say for y equals 0, y is less than map dot with, we're going to make our map. And also, just taking a quick moment, I want to add a watch.json to this project, recreating a WebGL context every time I press a keystroke. Some things reload fast really well on glitch, and some things like don't. You know, every time I type a keys press, it's trying to reload the entire page and create a brand new WebGL context, which takes some time. So I'm going to make a watch.json file, which, and what watch.json does is a special glitch file that I think I've done this before and some other stuff. But what it does, it lets me, the most important thing is it lets me tell this, hey, can you trigger a restart every 1,000 milliseconds as opposed to every 1,000 milliseconds. I don't need this to reload every key press. So we're just going to turn that way down. In fact, I think it's now turned down to 2000 milliseconds. That just means it's not going to reload constantly. It'll give me a little more breathing room for typing. Yeah, that's better. Much better. And then we can create a loop. Okay. So let tile equals map dot tiles y times map width plus x. That just finds my index into that array that I created. And then we can say background, or maybe make a sprite for this. Sprite equals new sprite tile textures. And now we can pass tile textures and pass whichever tile it is. And then we can say background dot add. Let's see, what are the options for container? What are my commands? So it's called add child. We want to pass in sprites, and we'll set those sprites positions within the container, I think. So it'll be add child sprite, and then we want to set the sprites anchors. I wonder what the default anchor is, but we'll say sprite.x equals so sprite.x equals x times tile size. Sprite.y equals y times tile size. Pixie.sprite. And then as opposed to adding the bunny, I want to add the background. And add our world map. And see what happens. Okay. You can see that we have the world's cruddiest world map. It's very tiny. But I'm sure I can say background dot scale dot x equals 4, and we'll do the same thing to y, because I just want everything to be big for the moment, because I want y'all to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so here we have our sort of crummy tile map. It's still doing the blurring. I want to enable nearest neighbor scaling. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but it looks like maybe this is it. What do they call it? They call it scale mode. Let's look what the scale mode equivalent is in the new scale modes. Pixie.settings. It's still Pixie.settings. So we want nearest. I'm going to copy this into my file because I want nearest neighbor scaling. Which, is that so wrong?
Nah.
Because I want those jaggies. Oh, yes. That is much better. Oh, yeah, that looks way better. Cool. Let's spin this, even though I know it's going to be gibberish. I just want to see what those jaggy rescaling looks like. I love it. Looks so good. Okay, well, that's not, no. Shall we ship it right here? No. Cool. But we now have the ability to make a map. I will admit, this is a bad map. Very bad. I'm going to make it... Let's make it 16 by 8. Just to start. Oh, heck, 16 by 9, right? It's widescreen. Obviously, 0 is still not what we want, because 0 is. But I'm enjoying this so far. Okay. First of all, we can scale everything down now that we've got nice big. Ooh, did that fit almost perfectly? 4, 4, 4, 3. Whatever, that's fine. I think I want the ground to look like the ground. So now we're going to actually go in and have a little bit of fun and a little bit of index counting here. I think this should be the ground. So 1 should be ground, And I think I said that 5, 6, so 5 plus 7 is 12. 12 is blank. So zeros become 12s and the floor becomes 1. Okay? I know I don't have an editor for this right now, but for now I think I can take advantage of the power of glitch here and do multi-select. In fact, I can do multi-select, but because I know I'm going to be copy-pasting all of these, I'm just going to delete this whole and delete all of these and just type 12 a bunch. Twelve, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. Okay, so that's blank. That's sky. That's emptiness. 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I said I wanted the zeros to become 1s. So now I'm going to take advantage of glitches multi-select and do copy, find all of these, get multi-cursor and type 1. And that should make a seamless ground. He asserts to the world. And by that I mean, oh, there it goes. Cool. Okay, we've got ground. I love it. I'm going to make it actually maybe even 16 by... Heck, let's make it 16 by 10. We're here. Let's get fancy. We can do internal to the earth stuff too. So our platform tiles, so 1 plus 7. 1 plus 7 equals 8. Jeez. I'm sorry that all of you had to hear me literally just do arithmetic in my head, but here we are. Cool. So now our map almost fills the screen, but more importantly, look at that beautiful ground. And maybe let's put a platform in here somewhere. The goal is to make a really basic platformer, so let's make ourselves the platform right now. Say, hey, look, here's a platform. So that's 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just do a 3, 4, 5 somewhere on screen. 3, 4. Feeling cheeky, so we'll do 4 twice, and then 5. The spinning block of sod was fun. Maybe that could be a game where you play as a spinning block of sod. What do we think? Cool. Okay. I feel like we're getting somewhere. I don't know that it's somewhere good, but it's somewhere. Oh, maybe we want a tree. 0, 1, 2, 3, 3 plus 3 times 7 is 21, 22, 23. So we've got a 23 somewhere. I don't know about you, but I've been playing some Mario Maker. Mario Maker 2 came out. I've been playing with it, and it all of a sudden makes me want to like make my own games and put stuff on the web for games. I don't know. I find it very appealing. Okay, I'm gonna make my tree taller. 30, 37. It's a hideous tree. It's really just the worst tree. But that's okay. So we've got this idea of tiles that describe what our scene looks like. I'm going to real quick open up Find and Replace. I know I said 12 for background, but we have sky. Why am I not using this like sky tile? Why am I using the absence of sky? I'm just going to pick one of these. So 4, and I guess it's 4 times 11, 4 times 7, or 4 plus 11 times 7. So it's, I don't know, 81, I think it is. We'll double check that. 81. And if not, it's 81 minus 7. 81 minus 7, 74. 74. See how that looks. That sky? Sky 74? It is. Cool. Blue sky 74. We're going to copy. We're going to do, this time we're going to do Find and Replace. How do you do Find and Replace in this editor? I do want to find and replace all of my 12s and make them 74s. So for the time being, we'll leave the darkness. The next thing I want to do, I want to do a collision map, right? So we have this idea we have this idea of tiles, but as opposed to having to do a big lookup table for which tiles you can walk through and which tiles you can't, I think we should do a collision map. And a collision map is going to be the exact same size and shape, but just be zeros and ones, where ones are things you can't walk through, and zeros are things you can't. Command Option F will do find and replace. That's what I thought. I mashed that. It didn't. Yeah, there it is. I don't know why. Oh, now I'm only getting... Ooh, that's funky looking. Ooh, that's very funky looking. Do I have to say... Look at the replace. It's only, Oh, I see. It's two prompts. Okay. Whew. Okay, that wasn't that bad. I do want to do this collision map. Thank you, Angelo. I did not realize it was a two-phase process. That tells you how often I do find and replace when I'm coding. I most of the time find myself doing like the Command D multi-select, because I'm usually only doing a few things and not a huge grid of values. So I get that. I can see that one of the issues I have here is that I might need a second layer for the sky, because look, my background and my sky, that's pretty cool. We'll deal with that in a moment. The fact that I need a separate layer for the sky. But now we can see that I want this final layer to be... Well, now that I know how I can do that, let me do... do a row of ones. Cool, because I know the ground is going to be collidable. Data entry with Potch. And then wherever my, it's 3 spaces up, and then it's 5 from the end. So that one, that one, that one, and that one. And that just tells me whether I can pass through that tile, my character, whether it's going to bonk its head. I love the fact that I got layers here. So let's see. So I need sky. It's going to be another Pixie container. I'm actually use a tiled thing just because I know I'm going to be using just one tile for now. Obviously, making pretty clouds would be ideal. Tiling sprite. Let's take a look at it. Make a tiling sprite. Oh, that's really, really simple. I love it. So sky equals new. Monica.dev, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Tiling sprite. And we're going to say tile textures. And what was our sky tile? It's 74. And then we know that it's going to be map.width times tile size, map.height times tile size. And we can add our sky to the scene. And then I can also go back in and change all these 74s to 0, which I'm going to do. Replace 74 with, it wasn't 0, it was some other number. 5 plus 7 is 12. Okay. 74 with 12. Cool. Columnfolds5, also thank you for the follow. And also, like, good name. If that's a Ben Folds 5 reference, I'm here for it. Okay, so we've added the stage, and we can add the sky. And hopefully, I think they're I'm assuming if I add them in order, their z's will just map out nicely. Sky.scale.x equals scale.y equals 2. There we go. Now we have a nice sky. Obviously, at some point we can. We could make a richer sky than just blue, but because there's all those little cloud objects in there as well. That's okay. I'm happy with this for the moment. And now we need to create our character. I'm gonna blob. We're gonna call our character blob. And we're gonna set up its anchor. I think I want its anchor to be bottom. I'm gonna have its anchor be the bottom left. Does that make sense? No, that doesn't match the tiles. I'm just gonna do 0, 0. So I can drop the anchor stuff. It seems like it defaults. Blob. We're gonna call it a blob. Right now I don't know what this character is gonna look like because I haven't actually done anything with it. Okay, we have a blob. We haven't added it to the scene. app.stage.addChild. Blob. Column 5, you haven't used glitch in a while. Yeah, we're making improvements all the time, and you should dip your toe. Okay, right now we're gonna play as a sentient flask because that's the graphic. If someone wants to go find me a little like 2-frame or 2 or 3-frame free to use with credit or without character, please let me know because I'll totally switch it from this. If not, I think I have another tile set that I can pull in that has a 16 pixel character of me. So that's always an option. I can use my 16-bit version of me or 8-bit version of me and pull that into the game. Maybe I'll do that. Let me do that real quick. I know where that art is, so I'm just gonna go find it. I tried to make a little game of me and my friends when I was in high school, or college. I guess this is college. And so I drew these little 8-bit versions of me and a couple of my friends. We were in a band together, and I wanted to make a game for us. And so this bottom one in the pink shirt, that's me, drawn as a shaggy-haired, bearded, pink-shirted little character. So I'm gonna take these graphics and maybe I might just pull in the whole tile map, but maybe I'll crop them real quick. Yeah, I'll crop them real quick. Just showing this off because I happen to remember that it exists. I have this tool called Pix, which lets me take files and pixelperson.png. I'm just gonna open that from my file. It's a really basic image editor. It literally just lets me crop and resize things, but that's all I need. So here we go. And I can crop this. So I know it's units of 256, so I can just go find what they are. So it's going to be, and I think my characters are 32 pixels tall. Turn off the aspect ratio locking and say 128. And then Y value, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times 32. There we go. And isolate that row. OpenGameArt.org. Thank you. That is awesome. I'm going to bookmark that. For the time being, I'm just going to grab these, export this little online image editor that just lets me play with this stuff really quickly and do a crop. Pixel person. Where did I download that? Yeah, I did. Rename it. Character.png, and let's pull that graphic in as well. So we have a character for our game, and that character will be me, doodled as pixels. So now we have 2 assets to pull in. So this is actually an interesting question. How do we pull in 2 assets? App.loader.add. I see we've got, we only pay attention to one of them. So let's see, how do we load multiple things and then only after we've loaded multiple things, start? So you call loader at the end. Oh, that's really simple. Okay, right now we're chaining it straight to load. Is that true? It is. Oh, well that's not that bad. So we can say app.loader.load, and we can say app dot oh my goodness, can't type right now. Add character, excuse me, cat, My cat can't ever stay away from stream. But now we've got the character assets. And so we can pull those in and do the same thing we did with the our tile textures. So we can say frames one moment. I may have to deal with my cat who has decided it's dinner time incorrectly. Let's see. I think there's 8 frames to the character. So we're just gonna cargo cold, copy paste time. You stop saying cargo cold. I don't like how I say that. X equals I, Y equals 0. So I don't need to use that logic. I can say character, and I know that this is 16 wide, but tile size 2 tall. It's not dinner time already. In fact, my cat disagrees with me, but it is not dinner time yet. I know that this is 0. Oh, and then this is not tile textures, but character frames. Okay. I also know that my character is twice as tall as the rest of my tile set, so I'm going to need to pay attention to that. And we'll use character frame 0, just a standing position. And then we need to scale it appropriately. And then also figure out what my cat wants. Excuse me. Excuse me. No, it's not dinner. Let's see. Line 15, I have a bug. It says. Oh, that's in Pixie.js. Very. Colorful vibe, thank you. More cat. Last thing this stream needs is last thing my cat needs is that people on this stream want, that he can have their attention. The idea that right now he only thinks he has my attention. That's interesting. I see this interesting error. Okay, what line is this coming from? 68. So it's telling me that what I did here is inaccurate. R is undefined. What did I mess up here? I times tile size, resource is dot tile set. Oh, it's resizes dot character dot texture. I edited the wrong part of that variable. Let it reload. Think. Okay, look at that. We have a character on our map. I love it. Now it's time. Now we get to actually do some game logic. Let's say X 0 Y 0, and then we'll add right now we'll just say VX VY 0. I may need to close my door just so, and then we can say just so the cat doesn't drive everyone batty, merely me. And we're going to synchronize these two things, but I want an array variable that lets me keep track of these things. Okay, so every frame, we want to make sure that the position of our character is where we want it to be. And now we can see that our character isn't actually fully 32 pixels tall, so we can do some cool stuff. But first things first, how does this compare to Phaser mechanism? Phaser is definitely more of a game engine, and this is definitely more of a graphics engine, where there's a lot of extra graphical sophistication underneath the hood that I am, to be honest, not exploring. So I think if you want to explicitly make a game, maybe Phaser is the way to go. I'm having fun with this. It's definitely more of just like a graphical toolkit, adding tiles and things and moving them around. Phaser, I will say that I struggled dearly with Phaser's the newest version of Phaser's documentation, as Paperback Walnut says. That doesn't mean that it's worse. It was just I think they're still going through a documentation transition, and I kind of wanted to learn Pixie to see how it compared. Right now, it's definitely not giving me any game dev primitives, right? It's just giving me graphical primitives. And so I think if you're more comfortable with the logic of programming your game, you're probably Pixie might be fun, but if you want the primitives of actually doing collision testing and all that stuff, I think that's going to be where Phaser shines. Though honestly, I haven't gotten too deeply into PixiJS. It may have features there that I don't know about. I'm going to take a look at adding some gravity to this. So let's say character.vy equals character.vy plus 1 every frame. Maybe that's the right amount of gravity? Who knows? We're going to add 1 to our character's gravity every frame, and then we're going to say blob.x plus equals, not blob, character, that's it, character.x. So it's going to be character.x plus equals character.vx. And then next we get to play with like keyboard and mouse stuff. And I believe Pixie has stuff for that. I haven't played with it yet, but I want to learn about actually reading like whether someone is holding down a key for movement. But right now I want to add basic gravity. And you're going to notice something very quickly, which is that my character is going to fall through the earth if I did this correctly. And if I didn't do it correctly, they're not going to move at all. Oh, yeah, I have there we go. So they are going to fall, but they're going to fall straight through the earth. And sure enough. Okay, obviously I don't have collision detection, so I don't know when I'm reaching the ground. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do really naive collision detection. I have the collision map here. And so we're going to do just really, really simple collision detection on this stuff. Instead of adding all of my speed at once, I'm going to iterate through it. So we're going to say for let I equals 0. Let's actually make this if let I equals if I'm going to temporarily close this. I don't need to reset while I'm coding because I know this isn't going to work. So if character.vy is greater than 0, that's our first test. And we're going to step through and say I is less than vy plus plus. So we're going to add all of the we're going to quickly run through our speed and add and slowly move our character until we hit something. So we can say let test point equals, or it's going to be really going to be tx will be our test. We'll call it test x. We know what we're doing. Test x. So we're falling, and so we need to test 2 points when we're falling. We need to test the front of our feet and the back of our feet to see if we hit ground on either end. So the first test x is going to be, maybe we'll even make that test x 1, and that's going to be our character.x divided by tile size, and we're going to take math.floor of that. That will tell us what tile our character's feet are in. I'm going to try not to use the floor shorthand just so this is easier to read. And then we need character plus tile size minus 1 because we want to touch the other end of their feet. And of course, we could adjust these. And we're essentially creating a hitbox for our character. And then they share a common, it's not text, it's test. Test y, and that will be character. And actually, it's going to be, just x, because we're moving in the y direction. It's going to be character y plus 1 plus, so character.x. No, have it right. It's going to be character y plus 1 plus the height of our character. So that's tile size times 2, because our character is 2 tiles wide. And so yeah, the +1 is we're going to move them exactly one step further, 1 pixel further down, or 1 game pixel further down. So this is their whole height. Actually, this is captured. This is because their feet are at character y plus tile size times 2 minus 1, and so we're adding 1 pixel to that, so we don't have to subtract. Oh, and also I need to take all of this math and put it in parentheses. Cool. So we now know we now know 2 places. We have 2 points. We can figure out where the pixels are, where their feet are. And so if not, so what we want to do is test if we're about to collide. Because if we're not colliding, we can move further. So we're going to say map.collision, and it's test y. Maybe, and this may be something that we want to write a helper function for, and maybe we'll do that right now. I'm going to make it because really what I want to say is if test collision test x1 test y1, and you know what? Because we're writing a helper function, I'm going to take all of the math that I've done here, and so all of that math logic is going to go into our helper function. I think that's going to be way easier. We don't have to write the same math over and over and over and over. Abstraction, it works. Right? So we're going to have, we don't need to do any of that. We can just do that. Okay, so here are our test points. And if we've collided, we want to set the vertical velocity to 0. Or if we're about to collide, we want to say character.vy equals 0. And we want to break out of the loop because we're done falling. We're done applying the vertical velocity. Otherwise, we can say equals. Cool. So now we have this function test collision that we haven't written yet, and we can write it up here. And that's going to be world x, world y, which means the world I'm going to use to refer to the fact that this hasn't been divided by our tile size yet. So test x is going to be, or I should say map x equals x divided by tile size, and that's going to be floored. Right. And we're going to say let map y equals and then we can say return map.collision map y times map.width plus map x. Cool. So test collision is going to tell us what the collision map looks like at that point. And assuming that all this is written test collision, and it's just test y. Right now we're just testing one of the points, but that means that we should be able to fall. Oops, I meant to open that side by side. Let's go side by side here. Well, that almost worked. We fell exactly halfway. That's interesting. I wonder why that is. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that we've scaled everything. That must be it. It's because we've scaled everything. Yeah, because all of these scale factors. We've actually fallen the right distance, but I need to apply. I'm going to make a global scale object because I'm going to need to counteract that scale object when I go from world coordinates back into map coordinates. And so I'll just need to go in here, everywhere I've set scale. And then we're no longer using blob. I know I'm using blob in a bunch of places, but blob, maybe I'll go ahead and rename that variable in a second. Okay, those are the places I've used scale. So, assuming everything behaves nicely, now reload this. A little better. Now I fall into the earth, which is funny, but I feel like we're closer. So let's figure out why. Character.y plus tile size times 2. Right. So it's character.y plus tile size times scale. Something tells me that the way I'm using my scale factor is going to be a real problem. And test x1 is actually just character.x. Okay, let's see how that works. Maybe my feet will touch the ground now? My feet touch the ground. We did it. Okay, we now have the ability to land on our feet. We're only testing one of the 2 points, so I actually need to say or test collision test x to test y. Okay, so we now have the ability to fall. We can jump through the ground right now, but we can't fall through it. Right? We're only testing when we're headed downward. But that feels pretty good. Let's go learn about how to move. I think we're feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like we've gotten pretty far through. I wonder if there's a way to test for key interaction. Application. Maybe it's attached to the application. Time to hit the internet. Hey, look, this was like a whole tutorial for the thing that I'm learning. Great. Okay. Yeah, they're effectively writing the basic keyboard handler that I would write for this situation. So let's write the basic keyboard handler, shall we? It's going to be class keyboard. I've actually written this before, but I'm going to rewrite it on stream because I think it's actually a useful thing to learn. But you say let pressed, and then you say we're going to write a function called watch. And we're going to pass an element to it, and we can say L dot and then pressed true. This is about as simple as it gets, and there's a lot of gotchas that I'm not going to cover. So yeah, I highly recommend you go write one of these. And then of course, this should actually be and the reason you do this is because we don't know when our frame's going to fire, but we need to keep track of whether a key is currently down or not. So this is a really, really basic keyboard like event listening thing. App.view appears to be an element that we can listen to. So we can say, I'm going to say let kb equals new keyboard kb.watch. And actually, we can actually do this within our loader ready, because we don't need to do this until it's loaded. So we can say app.view. Now we're going to watch our app for keyboard events, hopefully, which means I should be able to say if kb.pressed arrow up. I forget how that's written, but I think it's like that. I can say vy equals, let's say, -10. Let's see what happens. I'm super interested in seeing what happens. Reload our game. It's not working. I love it. Let's figure out why, shall we? Okay. What it seems is that I'm not able to capture key events on it, and I think I know why. I think, if I had to guess, it's because I need app.view.set attribute. I think I need to be able to capture keyboard events on it. I think I need to be able to make it focusable, so we're going to give it a tab index. And yes, and now if you can see that, this .press is undefined. Oh, okay. Let's do this instead. If I use arrow functions, then this will be mapped to the class and not to the function I'm looking at. Arrow up. Cool. We now have the ability to do an arrow up. But we don't have the ability to jump into the air because we're only incrementing our stuff if we actually can't fly into the air. So let's say if it's less than 0. Right now, I want to ignore a vertical collision. I just don't feel like writing it. Obviously, it'll be a copy-paste job, but we're going to say trigger.y minus equals by, and just say if we have negative negative, we just fly upward. Oh, plus equals. Let's try that again. Okay, we can jump. We don't look good when we're jumping, but we can jump. Let's create a state that lets us say, let touching ground equals false. Well, I know what it is. It's going to be more or less this code. We want to figure out where we're touching the ground. So effectively, I want to say, I'm going to write this as a very compact thing. It's going to be test collision, test at, the x value is going to be y plus tile size times scale times 2 plus 1. And that will return yes or no for touching ground. And now I can go into Sprite. And can we actually swap what our sprite is? I think we can. I'm going to guess that I can just reset texture. Yeah, okay. So we have the ability to actually give myself a vertical jump animate. So I can say, if not touching ground, blob.texture equals character frames 1, else zero. I have a cat right here who's very demanding. Just the most demanding. And now we can see when I jump, what I look like changes, which I think is pretty cool. I actually have a little jump animation, or at least one frame that indicates that I am off the ground, which I think is pretty cool. All right, Now it's time to move side to side. This will likely involve a lot more collision testing, but I think it's worth just doing the basics to start. We'll probably need at least 3 different test points for our collision when we're moving sideways. We're going to start by saying if kb.pressed arrow right Vx, and we'll add some amount of Vx. We can accelerate a little bit. Equals, say, plus equals 2. And then every frame, I think we'll do the opposite, where we'll say if character dot Vx is greater than 0, character dot Vx minus equals 1, and that will be our deceleration. And we'll do that for negative movement as well, where we just want our speed to approach 0, assuming we're not accelerating. This might get weird if we have fractional speeds, but right now I think that's going to be okay. You can see that I'm not moving I'm just sliding, which is funny, but it does work. Also, I don't have a maximum horizontal speed right now. That's something we'd want to do. Hi, this is my cat Remus.
Hi.
He's a sweet baby, but sometimes he's very annoying. He gets very frustrated when he doesn't get immediately what he wants when he's hungry, as you can see. Now I can slide around like I haven't a care. Cool. I'm going to stop logging this because I think that's making my logs noisy. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually put some animation in, because I think we can actually get keep track of like world time, which I think is really cool. And we can actually make our person walk when they're walking. I'm excited about that, at least. Go back to our application, read about the ticker, which is what we're using. I assume the ticker is going to be like telling me what frame I'm on. Ticker, yep, it has a function for time. Cool. So I can now get this actually has takes a variable, time. I don't know what time is at the moment, but let's temporarily, very temporarily, just log what the time is. I'm probably going to remove that as soon as I see what it is. I just want to see what the resolution is. It is not what I thought it was. It looks like it's a DT with a delta, which is not what I was hoping for. I was hoping for sort of a world time. You know what? I'm just going to, right now, I'm going to say if we're touching ground, if character.vx Vx is greater than 0, and then else if is less than 0, and at the end we'll have an else, because at the end we can set it to our standing still. But if we're moving, I'd love for it to have and so let's go take a look at the frames for our character. It has a walks. The first 2 things are a walk. So there's 3 frames of walk cycle here and 3 frames of walk cycle here. And then the last frame is actually the jump. So I can go back to our code and say if I'm above the ground that my jumping is actually frame 7. I think. Maybe I misread that. Oh, it's facing, run cycle. I see it now. Okay, because I don't actually, I'm not tracking which way I'm facing. So right now I'm going to use this for my jump cycle. But if I'm moving, I can actually say date.now divided by 1,000. And that's going to be math.floor. I just want to move through a walking cycle. So we'll say every 500 milliseconds, my walk cycle state changes. And then we're going to modulo that times 3. And we're going to add 1 because it starts at frame 1. So now when I'm walking right, I should have an animation for it. He insists. It's not animating as fast as I would like, but that's okay. It did work, and then I flew immediately off screen. Let's try that again. Okay, that actually looked okay. And then I want walking frames the opposite direction. So let's do +4, I believe. 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. Yep. So, or is it 5? I don't know. We'll find out. But this will tell me whether I am in the air or not. And then obviously I need to do pick a new thing for direction. Also, I can fly into space, which is pretty... Fly off into space, which I don't want. Also, my character needs a max speed. But over here is our arrow code. So this would actually be 2, but I want to cap it. So math.min. Let's give it a cap of, I don't know, 12. 10, 12, I don't know. Just making up numbers. Obviously, that's something you could change. Right? If you're making a game, you could say if the character's running, they have 1 top speed, and if they're walking, they have another top speed. And then for the moving left, their negative speed, like that. That does mostly seem to be working, though I will say that the frame rate is a little bit chunky. Just clean up a little bit. You know, this computer runs smooth as you like, except for when I'm doing WebGL stuff. WebGL stuff and OBS do not really play nicely together. It's kind of interesting. They genuinely don't like each other, and it has effects. So we're just going to clean up this window for real quick. Sometimes it just makes things a little bit chunky. And now we're back to resetting this and pointing it. And now this window won't load at all. I feel like it's going well. Let's clean up here. There's a good chance that one of the problems is that we're pulling this library off of a CDN. So we're going to go in here and clean up a little bit. Now I'm going to pull Pixie onto the box. And the other thing is I'm pulling in this button. The network might be a little slow. But I'm going to pull my library in locally. That shouldn't be a problem, but who knows? Something's being slow. Okay. Lastly, I want to capture direction. We're going to say let direction, and I'm going to say -1. And direction is, or actually let's say 0. 0 is going to tell me that I'm facing one way, and then I'll set it the other way. Oh, actually that's a property of my character. I should put it here. Equals 0. And then I can set direction, which will actually give me some frame information, right? Because I can actually say, if my speed is not 0, and now I can actually get information about direction. This is just a quick hack, but also lets me say, and so long as character.direction is either 0 or 4, which we can absolutely make it be by saying direction equals 0. And then we can set it to 4 when we're... I know 4 is sort of a funky number, but I just happen to know that that's frame-wise. And then here, jumping, I can actually say character.direction plus 1. And now when I'm walking, I actually can face directions. I just need to make it so this is direction. Cool. Okay. We now have the ability to run and jump. Oop, this would be character.direction. Come on. Chill out, kitty. Almost done. And I can jump. Oh, and I almost can jump high enough to get onto the platform. That's funny. Almost got me there. But you can see that I now have the... Well, also, I can just rise into the air infinitely because I don't have the ability to say... so, I also know if I'm touching ground. So I can say... And... ground... And I can see my jumps are actually not very high. So I think I should make my jumps, let's say -16. Because I want my jump to be high enough to get onto that platform. Interestingly, this might be a frame ordering thing, but when I'm facing this direction, it sometimes freezes me. Oh, right, my test is only testing 1 pixel right now. That's why. This should actually be... And now I have the ability to figure out whether either of my test pixels are touching ground. At least I should. I'm kind of happy with this, though. I feel like, given that we're coming up at the end of today's stream, I'm kind of happy with the idea of this little tile man and his running around. I just wish my floor test was working the way I'd like it to. Aha! I do know the problem, folks. I do know it. I do. Oh, that is a pain in the butt. Okay. The problem is when I'm testing... I'm doing a math.floor to figure out what tile I'm in. And the problem with doing a math.floor is the second that this toe here enters this frame, or enters this tile, it's all the way jumping to here. Because it's being divided and floored, and it's coming off the... I think technically for the back toe I need to do a ceiling, and for the front toe I need to do a floor. That's sort of a... I'm not sure how to best to check that. I do not know how best to check that. That is interesting. That is just a bit of a pickle. See, I'm not touching the floor, even though I should be, and then I am. Okay, so it's also happening here. I'm just gonna do this. I'm going to pass an extra thing into my test collision function, and it's going to assume left. And if it's left, it'll do so if type equals left, rounder equals math dot seal. You'll do right. Effectively, I wanted to determine whether I wanted to do floor or ceiling, and I wanted to make it in one function, which is maybe a terrible idea. maybe this is the sort of exercise that is best left for a part 2. What do you say? I say I want to do a part 2 about this because I actually think this is a great little library, and I would love to do particle effects and coins and animations and all kinds of cool stuff like that. I think a bunch of the stuff I'm doing here is like not idiomatic for this library, and I'd love to go in and learn more and try to build this the right way and just like do right by PixiJS. But I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I think that this could be a really neat way to make a simple game. So with that, I think I'm probably gonna wrap things up for this week, and say we have a really basic game. Yes, you don't touch. If you walk off the edge of the stage, you fall forever. Yes, you don't. Our ground test touches are not perfect, let's say, but I do think that this is the start of a really, really neat little experience, and honestly, not that much code to make what effectively is a little game engine. So with that, I'm going to finish this week. I think you should stay tuned for a part 2 of PixiJS. It might be next week. It might be some other time. But you should stay tuned for a PixiJS stream in the future. So thank you very much for checking out the stream this week. Obviously, I need to feed my cat. But I hope you have a good afternoon.